Hello everybody, JGC Anime here, and today we are going to be reviewing That Time I Got Reincarnated as a Slime, Season 2. So without further ado, let's just hop right into this. So, for those of you who haven't seen Slime Season 1, you probably shouldn't be watching this review since it is going to spoil a few things from Slime Season 1. Probably not much though, but yeah, let's just talk about it. So, the basic premise for Season 2 of Slime is now that the town of Tempest, the main character Rimaru's town, is making a lot more progress than it used to. Now they're about to work with the Beast Kingdom, and that's just where the whole story begins, where they start talking with the Beast Kingdom, and a bunch of events ensue that I can mainly only talk in the spoiler section about because there's a lot I gotta say. And yeah, that's kind of like how it starts, but I can't really describe too much else since it would spoil it. But yeah, so some things I liked and disliked in this season. I thought the action was definitely upped a lot. Well, I thought the action was decent for last season. This one was way more entertaining, especially showing off how much more OP Rimuru really is now that they've made it very clear just how strong he is as a character. Also, I'm really glad that there's not much development for too many of the characters in this season. There are some that clearly have gotten stronger and had a little more screen time than they previously did, but it doesn't feel like too much like anything's really developed at all. There feels like they have felt like there's a few developments, but not much. It definitely felt like, since this was more of a giant war story rather than a storyline that's meant to be developing the characters in some way, shape, or form like the previous season felt, it definitely felt like it was trying to just be a action-packed story with a few political things thrown in there from now and then. Things I kind of disliked, I would probably have to say, is sometimes the voice acting would come off as weird, since sometimes they would change it. Well, most of the voice acting stayed the same because I watched the dub of Slime. That's right, I'm a dub watcher. The only time I've ever watched Slime subbed was when I watched Slime Diaries. And yeah, I mainly watched the show dubbed. I think most of the voices fit really well. The only awkward one was for this one guy who was known as the King of the Dwarfs. Something about the King of Dwargon or something. Was Dwargon his name? I don't remember. But he had a different voice actor, I believe. Either that or his voice wasn't as deep as the previous season. He just sounded a bit different to me. Maybe that's just my memory sucking, but I feel like his voice was different. Acting-wise, everything was still very good in the dub version of the show. I think a lot of the voices matched what they had to, and I think it was just an entertaining viewpoint over it all, since every single character sounded like their character. I didn't find any real problems with any of the voices. And also the animation's not really choppy either. It's not like some shows like the recently released Fruit Revolution, which has some of the most cringy bad animation I've ever seen, which I might make that into a video rather than a review because there's so much I want to talk about with that one, because I'll talk about it when I make that video. Hopefully I make it, because I do want to talk about that one once the season finishes. But moving past that, I guess we'll talk about some spoiler-free thoughts I had for this season. So, I actually really enjoyed this season a lot. I definitely think it was a lot better than the previous season. I was more invested in the characters. And I'm also really glad, for the most part, it kept a conscious plot where everything felt like it was one continuous story. Whereas the previous season felt a lot like it was trying to tell multiple stories in one season, this one felt like it was definitely trying to keep things more contained. Another thing I really definitely like is how in this season there is not as much spoilers for future events. Because in the previous season of Slime, both intros for the series, which both were decently good intros, which I think Season 2's intros are way better in that respect. I really like the first and second intro for Slime Season 2. I think they're both way better, with the second opening for Season 2 being my favorite. I'm glad that they didn't really spoil anything. They kept things pretty calm for the most part, and things didn't feel like I was getting spoiled too much, and I didn't feel like I was seeing anything I wasn't supposed to. I think it was well played out. The only thing I think I could really complain about is how its ending was kinda stretched out a bit, and yet not stretched out at all. Like, it just felt kind of odd, but that's okay, because it was still very enjoyable. So I can talk about more of it in the spoiler section. Here is a timestamp to when the spoiler section ends. But if you have seen Slime, I recommend sticking around, because I like people hearing my thoughts on the actual season itself, and if you're ready for spoilers, prepare for what I'm about to talk about, because I'll probably just say it without thinking. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, so going over some of the stuff that happened in this season. One would first be the battle between Shizu's apprentice person. I can't remember her name right now. I'm sorry, I'm terrible with names for slime. Other than Rimuru and Veldora, I can barely remember any of the other characters' names at all, because there's so many characters. Trying to remember every single character name is hard. I can remember ones like Shion and Shuna, but trying to come up with every other name for every single character is a lot harder unless I tried to force myself to remember some of their names. But I definitely did like the battle between Rimuru and Shizu's apprentice. I'm just going to call her that, because I thought it was really interesting with how these two interacted, especially with Rimuru making a clone of himself to go out and fight her, so that way he didn't have to die. I thought that was cleverly executed, and I definitely felt a lot of intensity during that fight. The only problem was, I think it would have been more intense if it wasn't already spoiled for me by the time I got to that point. Because as I mentioned, I watched the dub of this, and because for some stupid reason, the dub gets released weekly just like the sub, I am stuck waiting twice as long because the dub starts so late. Like, the dub usually start 6 episodes after the original, and then I'm stuck waiting an extra 6 weeks just for the dub to finish, and it's super annoying. But because people think, oh, if we instead of waiting for the show to finish and then just releasing it all dubbed, we're just gonna release it weekly too, because people won't be bothered by how long that freaking takes. I was bothered. I really wanted to watch this season, but I didn't want to watch it subbed, so I ended up just waiting for the dub and eventually forgetting about the show for a while because I wanted to wait, which made me just kind of pop in from time to time and remember, oh yeah, that's a thing. But once I managed to wait for all the episodes to come out, I definitely had a really good time with this anime. I liked a lot of the action, and after all the battles, I didn't really like the politics at the start of the second half, because at the start of the second half, like probably many I've heard have hated it, there was this huge, big political batch of episodes which go for about 3 to 4 episodes before the actual plot of the second half kicks in. But and I was able to move past that fairly simply. It was just very boring that nothing really happened in that time frame. Although one of my favorite moments out of this entire season has probably got to be the Rimuru Tempest massacre, where he massacred literally thousands upon thousands of men simply by shooting some weird energy ball through their brains, and it was so insane, and I loved it, just seeing all these idiotic people getting murdered and not torn to shreds. They were still quite alive. Well, not alive, but you know what I mean if you watch the show. But I really liked the fact of how it was executed, and definitely made the first half of the season be my favorite half of Slime ever. I definitely think it stands as the strongest Slime season I've seen thus far with that half, which I'm looking forward to. I think they mentioned there was going to be a movie next year or the year after that. I know there's a Slime movie in the works, so I look forward to when that comes out. But yeah, as for the second half of Slime, moving past some of what happens in the first half, since I can only praise it if I kept talking about it, I found the battle against the main villain Clayman both good and bad, because after we got through the political stuff, I was just curious about Walpurgis and all the Demon Lords meeting, which I thought would be super interesting, and it was super interesting. It just took so long to get to that point. Once again, because the dub takes twice as long to come out to the sub version, I had to wait so long, because I tuned into every episode every week because I wanted to try and see it for myself. But then it took ages, because Walpurgis didn't even have to, I believe, episode 20 or 21. Why did it take so long to get to Walpurgis? It took so long to get to that point, and I could definitely say it was not very fun having to wait that long to get to that point, but I wouldn't say it was not entertaining. I did like seeing the character Benimaru, I believe that's his name, showing just how OP he is by defeating what was originally a big threat in Season 1, like a miniature version of it, literally almost immediately, showing that because Rimuru became a Demon Lord in the first half, which I'm glad that finally happened. I was actually really hoping Rimuru would become a Demon Lord, and because he did, I was really happy. And yes, I'm referring to Rimuru as a he instead of an it or a she, because even though Rimuru is genderless, he was a boy in his last life, so I'm referring to Rimuru as a he. I found Rimuru's whole, like, seeing his whole Demon Lord evolution to be a very entertaining thing. I really liked it, and I enjoyed it a lot. And once he went into Walpurgis and beat Clayman, I was laughing because I knew that Clayman didn't stand a chance against Rimuru at this point. And I'm looking forward to, because apparently Rimuru is only just going to get more OP from here. So I'm looking forward to seeing how things go with that. And who knows, maybe eventually Slime Diaries will get a dub. That probably won't happen, but if it did, I would rewatch Slime Diaries. But yeah, I definitely think that a lot of good stuff happened in this season, and I definitely found the battle against Clayman and the finale to be somewhat satisfying, not the most satisfying, but I still think it was good. Also, I was quite surprised by, again, we're going back to part 1, I was quite surprised with Shion's death, which before Rimuru became a Demon Lord and brought her back to life, I thought she was gone for good. Similar to how I felt about Meliodas. The only difference was I kind of got spoiled that she would come back to life thanks again to the sub, which completely ruined the suspense for the story. And why do people keep putting clips on the internet with the titles? I can't watch these shows. Do you know how hard it is waiting for Mushoku Tensei to finish so I can watch? I don't watch that show, dub. But do you know how long it's hard to wait for the show to finish? I've gotten spoiled about so many things. Same with One Piece, which I just started. Come on, man. But yeah, waiting is definitely hard, and overall, I definitely still enjoyed this season a lot, despite the constant waiting for new releases. Overall, though, I definitely say that this whole season of Slime was much more solid than the previous season. I had a much better time watching it, and despite the fact I normally haven't been a big fan of Slime in terms of its, like, non-town building parts of it, like, I always found the action to be kind of unnecessary, I really enjoyed the action in this storyline. And with all that said and done, I guess we're at the conclusion now. So, what are my final thoughts? It's good. Slime Season 2 was really good. I really liked it, and I found it to be much better than Season 1. I highly recommend it for anyone who watched Slime Season 1. Great season, great continuation, looking forward to the movie, and any future seasons that might come after. And that's why I have to rate Slime Season 2 an 8 out of 10. Very solid, very well executed, liked it a lot. Thank you all for watching. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe. I try to upload anime reviews every week. I thank you all for listening, and I shall see you all around. Peace!